Being that ray of sunshine that I know that I can be in everybody's life, I'm going to point out the positives today. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or baseball, both of which I would highly recommend at the moment. You can check out my daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Oilers 6, Penguins 1 last night in Edmonton, Alberta. The one, however, was by Evgeni Malkin. And there went the goalless streak, at least the latest goalless streak for Geno. That one ending at 13 games. He has scored 3 goals in his past 25 games. He doesn't have a power play goal since last year, meaning December 30th of 2023. He's got 3 power play goals all season long. That's not it, though. When I'm watching Geno right now, that's not my chief concern. When I'm watching Geno, I'm not thinking about a goalless streak or his overall production, which for the season, incidentally, still isn't all that bad with 46 points in 59 games. I'm thinking something else because I'm not seeing him move very well. And I have no reason whatsoever to believe he's hurt. He's a full participant in every practice. He's one of a handful of guys who partakes in every morning skate, including the optionals, game days. If he were even banged up, he'd be first on the list, given his age and prominence and importance to the team still, to be gifted one of those maintenance days. He doesn't take those either. If the coaching staff suspected that he could just use a blow or something, they could order one of those on him and just say, hey, Geno, just, you're an experienced guy here. We need you fresh for the run. We got a lot of games we're playing this month and the beginning of next month. Just take the practice down, my man. Don't worry about it. But they're not doing that either. And in the hockey parlance, that means he's fine. Now, nobody's 100% in early March. But fine means fine, which means that there are 2 possibilities for why he's skating right now as if he's got a grand piano on his back. The goal notwithstanding, he was at a complete locked-in position just waiting for a puck that kind of skipped its way out front. He did a nice job of whacking it in, and that was that. This wasn't some athletic achievement. One possibility is that he doesn't care, except that he does. So scratch that possibility. I am not looking out there and seeing the pouting Geno. I'm also not seeing the pouting Geno in the locker room. I've seen it before in both settings. I know what it looks like. This ain't it. And since I feel like I've scratched off the health issue, all we're left with is just that he's old. And that, this might be it. I don't want to sound dramatic for the sake of sounding dramatic. That's not exactly my style. It hurts watching him like this. This isn't the same player. He's not making things happen. And as he's told me himself on many an occasion, including, by the way, when he's busted out of slumps, his game has always originated with his legs. Now, I know that sounds like Captain Obvious material when you're talking about hockey and how important skating is, but I believe that there are a lot of people who look at the most skilled players in the NHL and think that they're all about the hands and the craftiness and their minds and the way they think the game. And Geno's obviously had all of that. But his best spurts in the NHL, including going back to his MVP season in 2012 when he scored 50 goals, have always been driven by the legs. When you think of beast mode Geno, as Brooks Orpik used to refer to it, you think of Geno flying up the rink. Remember against the Tampa Bay Lightning where he cut through the entire defense and then undressed the goaltender at the end? How about when he went, this was early in his career, coast to coast against the Devils? When you think of the great goal against the Hurricanes in the playoffs, maybe his signature goal as a Penguin, the backhander from the right dot over Cam Ward's shoulder. You think of the legs. You think of the churn. You think of that deep sound into the ice. You know what I'm talking about because you know somebody else who had that deep churn sound, who was of the same stature in terms of his frame, in number 66. It's a special sound on the ice. Big guys just flying. When Geno does that now, he gets stopped. Part of that is because teams know that when Geno gets that wind, when he does that thing where he swings back into the defensive zone and looks to get ahead of steam, I mean, he's been in the league for a while. Everybody knows what 71's trying to do. So they line up in the neutral zone and just wait for it. Poke it away from him, head back the other way, and we all complain about another Geno giveaway. I don't know that I've ever done an episode of this program where I had a greater wish to be wrong than in what I'm about to say right now, but I'm worried. This is a long contract. And this is also, from another perspective, a long legacy that you don't want to see get dragged through the mud because he's living out a long contract, because he's Jeff Cartering his contract. Not that he's Jeff Carter, you know what I'm saying. Maybe he needs a break. Maybe he needs to be spelled in some form or other, but there's no time for that either. What are you going to do? Call up Vinny Hinostroza and say, hey, go take Geno's spot for a couple of games when every single point matters? Presuming that it still does after this 2-point road trip? When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from Nikolai, who says, DK, if Kyle Dubas has a fire sale, it should be with the parts that he brought in to complement the core. Dubas parting ways with Jake Gensel because of playoff position would be like shooting an elephant twice, with both shots being his fault. Nikolai, I'm not going to argue with you. In fact, I think you worded that really well. As I've been saying for months, if you trade Gensel out, unless it's for some sort of instant windfall, which doesn't really happen all that often in the NHL, and you're sending the best left winger that Sidney Crosby's had ever out of here in his peak, in his prime, then what are you doing? Or what are you pretending to do? Then you come up with a whole new mission. You're not just going to say, well, hey, we traded Jake out for, I don't know, a couple of first-round picks, which don't do you any good for the duration of the time that Sid is here, or at least not much. And a young, ready for the NHL type prospect who's been in the minors for a couple of years or is just ready to come up from junior hockey or whatever. That's not it, because you have no idea what kind of compatibility you're going to get. I'm not even coming close to criticizing Sid when I say this, but have you noticed that Sid's production hasn't exactly been the same since Jake was hurt? I mean, is it okay to point that out? It's not always been Jake benefiting from Sid. Sid will be the first to tell you that. The two of them work in tandem beautifully. And whether it's Ricard Raquel or Brian Rust on that right side, a lot of really, really, really good things still happen 5-on-5 for that line, to the extent that they remain one of the best 5-on-5 lines in hockey. As you kind of suggested yourself, you're creating a massive problem and attempting to repair another. But I'll repeat, if somebody, just completely knocks you over with a franchise-changing offer, Ron Francis, Ulf Samuelsson, and Grant Jennings type of offer, go for it. Go get it. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Jake's a rental. Even if you do a sign and trade, at the moment that he's being acquired, he's a rental. And please understand when I say this, I'm not suggesting that you keep Jake for a potential playoff run this season. I'm not an idiot. I'm watching this team too. They're not going anywhere. They're not doing anything. With or without Jake, or with or without whatever they get for Jake. This season's shot. Now, I'd be willing, maybe even eager, to do a whole bunch of other things. And I'd move on the goaltending. If somebody wants Tristan Jarry, I'm actually a little bit disturbed by how little I would take just to move the contract off my hands. If someone wants Riley Smith or Ryan Graves, heck, I'm offering to drive them to the airport. Now, if someone wants, I don't even like saying this out loud, but Marcus Pettersson, you'd better really give me something, because he's been the second most consistent player on this roster at any position. But when you do it with Jake, and you speak out of the same side of the mouth that says we want to make sure that Sidney Crosby ends his time, plays his full career in Pittsburgh, as he absolutely, unequivocally has to do, and I'll ask again, what are you doing? I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins, and we're going to do another one of these tomorrow.